The enemy you fear most lives inside your skull. And here is what no one tells you. The harder you fight it, the stronger it becomes. I have watched empires collapse not from the armies at their gates, but from the chaos within their own walls. Your thoughts are not your ally, simply because they are yours. Most people lose their lives to a war they never knew they were fighting, a war where surrender is the only path to victory. What if I told you that mastering your mind begins with the one move that terrifies you most? Stay with me here, because what I'm about to share with you will change everything you think you know about how your own mind works. And I need you to understand something right from the start. You've been taught to fight your thoughts, to battle your anxiety, to defeat your fear, to conquer your doubt. And every single one of those instructions has been leading you deeper into the trap. You've been fighting the wrong war, and that war is killing you slowly, one anxious thought at a time, one sleepless night at a time, one moment of self-doubt at a time. But here's what I know that most people never discover. The greatest victories in warfare, the ones that change everything, are the ones that require no battle at all. The enemy surrenders before the first sword is drawn. The city opens its gates without a siege. And your mind can become your greatest ally without you ever having to defeat it. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Sun Tzu, you don't understand. My anxiety is real. My fears are legitimate. My thoughts are based on actual threats. And you're right, they are real. But real doesn't mean true. Real doesn't mean you have to obey. And that distinction, that tiny gap between what feels real and what is actually true, is where your entire life changes. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you're exhausted. You're tired of waking up at 3 in the morning with your heart racing over things that haven't even happened yet. You're tired of replaying conversations from 5 years ago, rewriting them in your head, torturing yourself with better versions you'll never get to say. You're tired of feeling like a prisoner inside your own mind, where the walls keep closing in, and there's no escape hatch, no emergency exit, no way out. You've tried everything, haven't you? You've tried positive thinking. You've tried affirmations. You've tried working harder, staying busier, distracting yourself until you collapse. You've tried meditation apps that promise peace in 10 minutes. You've tried therapy and journals and breathing exercises, and all of it helped. Maybe for a moment, maybe for a day. But then the thoughts came back. The anxiety returned. The fear knocked on your door again, and you let it in because you didn't know you had a choice. Here's what nobody's telling you. Your mind is not broken. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. Your brain is an ancient survival machine that evolved to keep you alive in a world of saber-toothed tigers and rival tribes and genuine life or death situations. It scans for threats constantly. It predicts danger everywhere. It replays your mistakes so you won't make them again. It catastrophizes so you'll be prepared for the worst. And in a world where being eaten by a tiger was a real possibility, this was brilliant. This kept your ancestors alive. But now? Now you're using that same ancient software to navigate a modern world where the threats aren't physical, they're psychological. Where the dangers aren't outside, they're inside. Where the worst thing that can happen isn't death, it's embarrassment, rejection, failure, not living up to your own impossible standards. So your brain keeps sounding the alarm. It keeps telling you you're in danger. It keeps showing you catastrophic scenarios that will probably never happen. and you keep believing it because you think your thoughts are telling you the truth. You think your anxiety is protecting you. You think if you just worry hard enough, plan enough, control enough, you'll finally be safe. But here's the truth that will set you free. Your mind is not reporting facts. It's generating predictions. It's creating stories. And most of those stories are fiction. Your brain is like a novelist who only writes horror stories, and you've been reading every single one like it's tomorrow's news. The shift I'm offering you today is this: you are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes your thoughts. You are not the storm. You are the sky in which the storm appears. And when you understand this, when you really get this, everything changes. Because suddenly you have distance, you have space, you have choice. Let me show you what I mean. Right now, as you're listening to this, you're having thoughts. Maybe you're thinking about whether this will actually help. Maybe you're thinking about what you need to do later. Maybe you're judging yourself for not paying better attention. Notice that. Notice that you're having those thoughts. But also notice that there's a you that's noticing. There's an awareness behind the thoughts. That awareness is who you really are. And that awareness has never been broken. It's been there your whole life, watching, observing, steady as the sky, while your thoughts have come and gone like clouds. Most people live their entire lives identified with their thoughts. They think, I'm anxious, when the truth is, I'm noticing anxious thoughts. They think, I'm a failure, when the truth is, I'm having the thought that I'm a failure. This seems like a small distinction, but it's everything. Because when you are your thoughts, you have no power. When you observe your thoughts, you're suddenly the general looking at the battlefield instead of the soldier drowning in combat. Now let me tell you a story that will make this clearer. Imagine two generals defending the same city from the same enemy army. The first general sees the enemy approaching on the horizon. His heart races. His mind floods with worst-case scenarios. He imagines defeat, destruction, death. He panics. He sends troops in every direction. He fortifies walls that don't need fortifying. He exhausts his resources preparing for attacks that never come. He creates chaos in his own ranks because he's fighting his fear instead of fighting the enemy. And when the real battle comes, he's already lost because he defeated himself. The second general sees the same enemy on the same horizon, but he doesn't panic. He observes. He notices his fear, yes, but he doesn't become it. He watches the enemy's movements. He waits. He gathers information. He understands that fear is just his body's way of preparing him for action, not a command he has to obey. When the enemy makes their move, he responds with precision. No wasted energy, no chaos. And often, the enemy retreats before the battle even begins because they see a general who cannot be rattled, a city that cannot be broken, a leader who has already won the war in his own mind. Your mind is both of those generals. Every single day, it's both of those generals. One part of you is panicking, catastrophizing, sending your emotional troops in every direction, exhausting you with worst-case scenarios. The other part of you is calm, observing, capable of precision, capable of waiting, capable of choosing the right response instead of reacting to every alarm bell. Most people spend their entire lives being the first general. They never even know the second general exists. They think the panic is all there is. They think the catastrophizing is keeping them safe. They think the exhaustion is just the price of being a responsible person, and they die that way. exhausted, defended against threats that never came, having spent their one precious life at war with themselves. But you don't have to. That's why you're here. That's why something inside you knew to click on this video. Because part of you, maybe a quiet part, maybe a part you've been ignoring, knows there's another way. Let me give you another image that might help. There's an old teaching about a man standing at the edge of a river. He's furious. He's screaming at the water to stop flowing. He's splashing, fighting, trying to push the river back with his bare hands. He's soaked. He's exhausted. He's defeated. And the river just keeps flowing, completely indifferent to his rage. A few feet away, another man sits on the riverbank, watching the same river, same water, same current, same flow. But he's not fighting it. He's not screaming at it. He's not trying to control it. He's just watching. And because he's not in the river fighting, he can see clearly. He can see where the current is strong and where it's weak. He can see the patterns. He can see when it's safe to cross and when it's not. He has all the power, not because he controls the river, but because he's not being controlled by it. Your thoughts are the river. They flow. They will always flow. That's what thoughts do. You will have anxious thoughts. You will have fearful thoughts. You will have thoughts that say you're not good enough, smart enough, loved enough. Those thoughts will come like water flowing downstream. The question that determines your entire life is this: are you the man screaming in the river or the man sitting on the shore? Most people are in the river. They're fighting every thought. They're trying to stop the anxiety, eliminate the fear, fix the doubt. And it's exhausting because you can't stop a river from flowing. But when you step back, when you become the observer, when you sit on that shore and just watch the thoughts go by, something miraculous happens. The thoughts lose their power. They're just thoughts. They come, they go, and you remain. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, okay, Sun Tzu, this sounds nice and philosophical, but what about when my thoughts are actually right? What about when my anxiety is based on real problems? What about when I have actual reasons to worry? This is the trap everyone falls into, so I need to be very clear with you about this. Yes, you have real problems. Yes, you have real challenges. Yes, there are things in your life that need attention. But here's what you're missing. Worrying about them doesn't solve them. Catastrophizing about them doesn't prevent them. Fighting with your anxious thoughts doesn't make you more prepared. Let me break this down for you. When you have a real problem, you need clarity to solve it. You need a calm mind. You need to see the situation as it actually is, not as your fear tells you it is. But when you're fused with your thoughts, when you're drowning in the river of anxiety, you don't have clarity. You have chaos. You make decisions from panic. You react instead of respond. You create more problems while trying to solve the original one. The second general I told you about, the calm one, he's not calm because he's ignoring the threat. He's calm because he knows panic doesn't help. Fear is information. Anxiety is a signal. But they're not commanders. They don't get to make the decisions. He does. This is what I mean when I say mastering your mind doesn't mean controlling it. It means understanding which part is which. Your mind has a fear generator. That's fine. That's useful. It tells you when something needs attention. But it doesn't get to run your entire life. It doesn't get to decide your worth, your future, your identity. It's a tool, not a tyrant. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine you have an important presentation tomorrow. Your mind starts spinning. It shows you images of yourself failing. It replays every past mistake. It generates a list of everything that could go wrong. Your heart races. You can't sleep. You rehearse obsessively, making yourself more anxious with every practice run. That's being the first general. That's fighting the river. And you know what happens? You walk into that presentation exhausted, frazzled, convinced you're going to fail. And because you're so in your head, so fused with your anxious thoughts, you probably don't perform your best. Your fear became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now imagine the same situation, but this time you're the second general. You notice the anxious thoughts. You say to yourself, "Oh, there's anxiety. There's fear. My mind is trying to protect me by preparing me for the worst." That's interesting. Thank you, mind. But I'm not going to obey every thought you generate. You acknowledge the fear without becoming it. You prepare, yes, but from a place of calm focus, not panicked obsession. You go to bed at a reasonable hour because you know rest will serve you better than more rehearsal. You walk into that presentation grounded, present, clear. And because you're not fighting with yourself, you have access to your actual skills, your actual intelligence, your actual competence. Same situation, different relationship with your mind, completely different outcome. This is what I mean by mental warfare. The war is not between you and your thoughts. The war is between the you that knows you're more than your thoughts and the you that keeps forgetting. It's between the general on the shore and the man drowning in the river. It's between the part of you that can observe and the part of you that gets swept away. And here's the beautiful paradox that no one tells you. The moment you stop fighting your thoughts, they lose most of their power. The moment you stop trying to control your mind, you gain control over your life. The moment you surrender the battle, you win the war. I know this sounds backwards. Your entire life, you've been told to fight harder, try harder, think more positively, discipline yourself, control your emotions, master your mind through sheer force of will. And every time you've tried that, you've ended up more exhausted, more anxious, more convinced something's wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. You've just been using the wrong strategy. You've been treating your mind like an enemy to defeat when it's actually a tool to understand. You've been trying to eliminate thoughts when you should be choosing which ones to follow. You've been fighting the river when you should be sitting on the shore. Let me tell you about one more aspect of this that's crucial to understand. In warfare, there's a concept of the inner spy. The enemy doesn't just attack from outside. They send spies into your camp to spread fear, confusion, misinformation. These spies look like your own soldiers. They sound like your own advisors. But their job is sabotage. Your mind does this too. It plants thoughts that sound like wisdom, but are actually sabotage. Thoughts like, "You're falling behind. Everyone else has it figured out. You should have accomplished more by now. If you really cared, you'd work harder. You're not enough. You'll never be enough. You're fooling people. They're going to find out you're a fraud." These thoughts sound urgent. They sound true. They sound like they're trying to help you by motivating you, pushing you, keeping you humble. But they're not helping. They're the inner spy. Their job is to keep you small, keep you scared, keep you compliant, keep you from ever stepping into your actual power. And the cruelest trick? You think these thoughts are you. You think they're your own voice. You think they're insights about your character, but they're not. They're just mental patterns you picked up somewhere, maybe from a parent, maybe from a teacher, maybe from a culture that benefits from you doubting yourself. They're not truth. They're just programming, and you can reprogram. Here's how you catch the spy. Next time you hear one of these thoughts, pause. Just pause. Notice what it's saying. Notice the tone. Notice the energy. Then ask yourself, is this thought making me bigger or smaller? Is it opening possibilities or closing them? Is it helping me see clearly or is it distorting my vision? If it's making you smaller, it's the spy. Name it. Say to yourself, oh, there's the inner critic. There's the perfectionist. There's the fear generator doing its thing again. Not because it's bad, but because it's confused. It thinks it's protecting you, but it's actually sabotaging you. And here's the magic. When you name it, when you see it clearly, it loses its disguise. It can't pretend to be you anymore. It's just a thought pattern, just a mental habit, just a voice in the room. And you get to decide whether you listen to it or not. Most people never get to this point. They spend their entire lives obeying the inner spy, following orders from thoughts that were never trying to help them in the first place, making themselves smaller and smaller until they barely recognize themselves anymore. But you're different. You're here. You're listening. Some part of you knows there's another way, and there is. Now let me get practical with you, because philosophy means nothing if you can't use it. I'm going to give you 3 practices you can start today that will begin shifting your relationship with your mind. These are not complicated. You don't need special equipment. You don't need hours of time. You just need to start noticing. The first practice I call the observer's pause. This is the simplest and most powerful thing you can do. Next time you notice anxiety, fear, anger, or any strong emotion, pause. Just 1 second. 1 breath. And in that pause, say to yourself, I notice I'm having the thought that blank. Fill in the blank with whatever the thought is. So instead of, I'm going to fail, you say, I notice I'm having the thought that I'm going to fail. Instead of nobody likes me, you say, I notice I'm having the thought that nobody likes me. Instead of I'm not good enough, you say, I notice I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough. This sounds so simple, it almost sounds stupid, but this tiny shift changes everything. Because the moment you say, I notice I'm having the thought, you've created distance. You're no longer inside the thought. You're no longer being the thought. You're observing it. You're the general on the shore instead of the man in the river. And here's what happens. The thought loses some of its grip. It becomes less solid, less absolute, less you. It's just a thought. It appeared, you noticed it, and now you get to decide what to do with it. You don't have to obey it. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to fight it. You can just let it be there, like a cloud passing through the sky, while you remain as you've always been, the awareness that watches the clouds come and go. Try this today, just once. Next time your mind serves you a terrible thought, pause and say, I notice I'm having the thought that blank. See what happens. See how it feels. This one practice, if you do nothing else, will begin to change your life. The second practice is what I call name the general. Your mind has different voices, different parts, different patterns, and each one thinks it's in charge. But they're not all you. They're aspects of your mental landscape, and when you name them, you take away their power to masquerade as the truth. So start labeling the voices. There's the fear general, who's always preparing for catastrophe. There's the perfectionist general, who says nothing you do is ever good enough. There's the comparison general, who shows you everyone else's highlight reel and makes you feel behind. There's the shame general, who replays your worst moments on a loop. When you hear these voices, don't fight them. Name them. Say to yourself, oh, that's the fear general again. That's the perfectionist doing its thing. That's the comparison general showing me curated Instagram posts and pretending they're reality. Why does this work? Because when you name something, you're no longer it. You've stepped back. You've created space. The fear general is not you. It's a pattern, a habit, a voice, and you're the one who decides which voice gets to lead. Imagine you're in a room full of advisors. Each one has an opinion. Each one thinks they're right, but you're the king. You listen to all of them, and then you decide. The fear general gets a voice, but not a veto. The perfectionist gets to speak, but doesn't get to run your life. You hear them all, and then you choose. This is what sovereignty looks like. This is what mastering your mind actually means. Not controlling every thought, but choosing which thoughts to follow. The third practice is what I call the evening review. Before you go to sleep each night, take 2 minutes to reflect on your day. Not to judge it, not to fix it, just to notice it. Ask yourself 2 questions. Which thoughts did I follow today that made me smaller? Which thoughts did I follow today that made me wiser? Don't beat yourself up over the answer. Just notice. Maybe you followed the thought that you're not good enough, and it made you shrink in a meeting. Notice that. Maybe you followed the thought that you could try something new, and it opened a door. Notice that too. This practice builds awareness, and awareness is 90% of the battle. Because once you see the pattern, once you notice which thoughts serve you and which ones sabotage you, you can start making different choices. Not perfectly, not every time, but sometimes. And sometimes becomes more often, and more often becomes your new normal. These 3 practices, the observer's pause, name the general, and the evening review, are not complicated, but they're powerful, because they all do the same thing. They create distance between you and your thoughts. They remind you that you are not your mind. You are the awareness that observes your mind. And from that place of awareness, you have all the power you've ever needed. Now let me tell you something that might surprise you. I'm not asking you to become some perfectly calm, emotionless, enlightened being. That's not the goal. That's actually another trap. The goal is not to never feel fear. It's to not be controlled by fear. The goal is not to never have anxious thoughts. It's to not believe every anxious thought your mind produces. The goal is not to eliminate your inner critic. It's to recognize it's just one voice, not the voice of truth. You're human. You will have bad days. You will have moments where you forget everything I've told you, and you'll find yourself drowning in the river again, fighting with your thoughts, believing the inner spy, being the panicked general. That's okay. That's part of the process. What matters is that you notice. What matters is that you remember you have a choice. What matters is that you come back to the shore. This is not about perfection. It's about practice. It's about building a new relationship with your mind, one day at a time, one thought at a time, one moment of awareness at a time. And here's something beautiful that starts to happen when you do this work. Your life doesn't necessarily get easier. You still have challenges. You still have losses. You still have disappointments. But you stop being at war with yourself. You stop spending all your energy fighting your own thoughts. And suddenly you have so much more capacity for everything else, for presence, for connection, for actually solving your problems instead of just worrying about them, for living your life instead of rehearsing it, analyzing it, judging it. You start to experience something you might not have felt in a long time: peace. Not the peace of having everything figured out, not the peace of perfect circumstances, but the peace of knowing you're okay even when things aren't okay. The peace of being grounded in yourself even when the world is chaos. The peace of the sky that remains steady while the storms come and go. This is what I want for you. This is what's possible. And it doesn't require you to be someone other than who you are. It requires you to remember who you actually are underneath all the thoughts, underneath all the fear, underneath all the stories your mind has been telling you about who you're supposed to be. You are not your resume. You are not your productivity. You are not your mistakes. You are not your anxiety. You are not the voice in your head that says you're not enough. You are the awareness that has been present your entire life, witnessing all of it, steady as the sky, vast as the ocean, unbroken even when everything else felt broken. That awareness has never needed fixing. It's not damaged. It's not lacking. It's not behind. It's been here the whole time, waiting for you to remember it, waiting for you to come home to yourself. And the moment you do, the moment you step out of the river and onto the shore, the moment you become the observer instead of the observed, the moment you create even the tiniest bit of distance between you and your thoughts, everything begins to shift. Not because your problems disappear, but because you're no longer the problem. Your mind is no longer the enemy. Your thoughts are no longer commands, and you're finally free to live the life that's been waiting for you all along. Let me bring this all together for you now, because I want you to walk away from this understanding exactly what's changed, exactly what you know now that you didn't know before. You came here exhausted from fighting a war with your own mind. You came here believing that your thoughts were facts, that your anxiety was protecting you, that if you could just think your way to peace, you'd finally be okay. You came here because nothing else had worked, and you were tired of feeling like a prisoner inside your own head. And what I've shown you is this: the war is not between you and your thoughts. It's between two ways of relating to your thoughts. One way makes you a slave. The other way makes you sovereign. One way keeps you drowning in the river. The other way puts you on the shore. One way makes you the panicked general. The other way makes you the calm one. Your thoughts are not your enemy. They're not even the problem. The problem is believing them blindly, obeying them automatically, treating them like commands instead of suggestions, like facts instead of predictions, like truth instead of the stories your ancient survival brain tells you to keep you safe. You are not your thoughts. You are the space in which thoughts appear. You are not the storm. You are the sky. You are not the river. You are the witness on the shore. And when you remember this, when you practice this, when you live from this place of awareness, you reclaim the power you've been giving away to every passing thought your entire life. This doesn't mean you'll never struggle. It means you'll struggle differently. It doesn't mean you'll never feel fear. It means fear won't own you. It doesn't mean life will be perfect. It means you'll be present for the life you have instead of at war with the life you think you should have. The practices I gave you, the observer's pause, naming the general, the evening review, these are your tools. They're simple, but they're profound, because they all point you back to the same truth. You have a choice. You've always had a choice. And that choice is not about what thoughts appear, but about which thoughts you follow. Now, I want to leave you with something you can carry with you, something you can return to when your mind gets loud, when the anxiety spikes, when you forget everything I've told you, and you find yourself drowning in the river again. This is the truth I want you to anchor yourself to. This is the mantra that will remind you who you really are. Say this to yourself, out loud or in your mind, whenever you need it. I am not my thoughts. I am the one who decides which thoughts to trust. My mind serves me. I do not serve it. The war is over. I choose peace. Say it when you wake up anxious at 3 in the morning. Say it when your inner critic tells you you're not enough. Say it when you catch yourself catastrophizing about a future that hasn't happened. Say it when you realize you've been fighting with yourself again. I am not my thoughts. I am the one who decides which thoughts to trust. My mind serves me. I do not serve it. The war is over. I choose peace. Let these words remind you that you're not broken. You've just been misled by a culture that told you to fight harder, by self-help that told you to control more, by a mind that confused protection with prison, by voices that convinced you that you were the problem when you were always the solution. You were never broken. You were just lost in the river, believing you were the water instead of the witness. You were just being the panicked general, not knowing the calm one existed inside you. You were just following every thought like it was a command, not knowing you had the power to choose. But now you know. Now you've seen the shore. Now you've met the second general. Now you understand that mastering your mind is not about control. It's about clarity. It's about distance. It's about remembering who you are underneath the noise. And if this video has landed for you, if something has shifted, if you feel even a little bit lighter, a little bit clearer, a little bit more free, I want you to do something for me. I want you to hit that like button, not for the algorithm, though that helps too, but as a signal to yourself, as a commitment, as a way of saying, I'm done fighting the wrong war. I'm done being a prisoner. I'm ready to step out of the river and onto the shore. And then I want you to drop a comment. Just one thing. One thought you're choosing to stop obeying. One voice you're choosing to stop listening to. One battle you're choosing to stop fighting. Write it down. Make it real. Let it be the first step of your new relationship with your mind. And if you want more of this, if you want to keep going deeper, if you want truth that cuts through the noise and wisdom that actually changes your life, subscribe. Because we're just getting started. There's so much more to explore about how to live with clarity, purpose, and peace in a world that's trying to keep you confused, distracted, and at war with yourself. But for now, I want you to know this. You've got this. Not because you're perfect. Not because you'll never struggle again. Not because your mind will suddenly stop generating difficult thoughts. You've got this because you're finally paying attention. You're finally seeing clearly. You're finally remembering who you are. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who watches them. You are not the storm. You are the sky. You are not the prisoner. You are the key. The war is over. You've already won. You just needed someone to remind you. Now go be free.